Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into an economic reform proposal that's, well, pretty audacious. It really challenges, a lot of traditional thinking.
It really does. We're talking about a system that gets rid of income taxes entirely.
Exactly. Imagine that. Zero income tax. Instead, the idea is to directly link your everyday spending to building up the country's industries.
Right. It relies heavily on consumption and land taxes to drive economic activity. It's quite a different path to growth.
And there's this fascinating angle on tackling things like inflation and currency stability, too.
Yeah, that's a key part. The framework aims to channel money directly from, well, consumption, straight into production and long-term investment.
They call it forced capital induction, is that right?
That's the term used, yeah. It's basically a deliberate push, redirecting resources to strengthen the economy, make it more diverse.
Okay, let's unpack the biggest move first. 0% corporate and personal income tax. That's huge.
It is.
What's the thinking behind getting rid of taxes that, well, most countries completely rely on? And what comes in instead?
Well, it boils down to incentives, really. The argument is that taxing work, taxing profits, it discourages people from working hard, from innovating, from investing capital.
So it holds things back, essentially.
That's the idea. So instead, you free up those resources, you make the country theoretically very attractive for capital that can move around, and it simplifies the whole tax system.
So the burden shifts. Where does it shift to?
Primarily to value-added tax VAT, which you pay on most goods and services you buy, and also a land value tax, or LVT.
Okay, so taxing consumption and land value.
Exactly. Tax what people spend or the value of the land they hold rather than what they earn or what businesses produce. It's meant to encourage production.
Okay, so for the average person listening, or for businesses, what does this actually look like day to day? If income taxes vanish, how do we pay for schools, roads, all that?
That's a critical question.
And where does that forced capital induction thing really kick in?
Right, this is where it gets really interesting and quite different. The proposal sets the VAT, for example, at 24%. But that money doesn't just go into one big government pot.
No, how's it split?
It's allocated very specifically. Only about 30% goes to the central government for, those essential services you mentioned.
Okay, just under a third.
Then a big chunk, 50%, goes to what they call the three pillars funds.
The three pillars, what are those?
Things like a national dividend, which sounds a bit like a basic income payment for citizens. Then there's a national income supplement, maybe for targeted support, and an assisted savings program to help people build wealth.
Ah, okay, so there's a direct feedback loop to citizens from the consumption taxes they pay.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's designed to spread the benefits widely across society.
Got it. But that still leaves 20%. You said that goes to sectoral banks. That sounds important for the forced induction part.
Exactly. This is really the core of that whole idea, that rechanneling of capital.
So what are these sectoral banks?
They're pretty unique. The idea is they'd be owned by the businesses within their specific economic sector. Like, all the agricultural businesses might co-own the agricultural sectoral bank.
Okay.
And that 20% slice of the VAT, plus maybe even tariff revenues, gets funneled directly into these banks.
So the money paid for, say, electronics, part of that tax goes right back to banks owned by electronics companies.
Basically, yes. The funds are immediately available for productive investments within that sector. The proposal puts it something like money can stew in reinvesting for a long time and comes out the other end as even more money before being taxed again when it's finally spent on consumption.
Huh. So it's designed to keep capital working, compounding within industries.
Right. To increase production capacity, maybe lower costs over time. They even mention ways to subsidize foreign investment, possibly using something called gold kip.
Gold kip?
Yeah, a proposed gold-backed digital currency for international deals, designed to attract capital from overseas. It's all part of making sure the capital keeps flowing into production.
Wow. That link from buying everyday stuff to directly funding the companies making it, that's definitely innovative. How does that kind of setup affect the wider economy, beyond just funding specific sectors?
Well, connecting it to the bigger picture, the goal is a really production-focused economy.
Yeah.
The sources mention an example using kip, the currency in Laos, where this was proposed.
Yeah.
Like, for every 100 kip someone spends, bits of it go directly to producer bank, the Lao Interbank, maybe a sovereign wealth fund.
So it's all earmarked.
Yeah, the idea is, as the proposal says, every dollar spent domestically should instead increase the private savings rate, increase funds for investment, sectoral banks, directly decrease the deficit, and directly increase government savings.
So it's designed to fight inflation, diversify the economy, make it more resilient by constantly feeding capital back in.
That's the aim, a constant, deliberate capital infusion into the parts of the economy that actually produce things.
So, what we've really unpacked today is this, well, quite radical rethinking of economic policy, a definite shift away from taxing income.
Yeah, moving towards a system where the taxes you pay when you buy things are actively, directly used to boost production and investment. It's a very different way of thinking about funding and growth.
A fundamental shift.
Absolutely. It's a model built around self-reliance, economic diversification. The goal seems to be less about just chasing GDP figures and more about maybe lower prices for essentials and higher savings for people.
A really thought-provoking approach. It certainly makes you think differently about your own spending, doesn't it? What stands out most to you about this idea, this direct link between your shopping trip and potentially the long-term health of national industries?